Hello, I'm live. I continue reading extracts out of Joan Marshall Grant's book entitled Speaking from the Heart. This is a book about ethics, reincarnation, and what it means to be human. This is a book about her, and it's partly an autobiography. I'm reading now the chapter, I think it is 14, which is I'm reading from her jottings, things she jotted down which did not end up in a book, but which were just her own notes and so on. And we are here from hand to hand, the torch is passed, is the title of this chapter, and it's basically about psychic training. The situation of this planet in space and clock time is one which we find ourselves bewildered, because in our growing time these problems did not exist. For instance, in our childhood, war meant, I will capture the other herdsman's flock, and one took by force something which would, wrongly, make one feel that one had not failed in the mission. In those days, it was at least rule one that the individual who wished to shepherd the sheep, the individual who tasted each leaf before it was known as healthful, the individual who could recognize the basic energy principles innate in all forms of energy in evolution or devolution, must have all his five senses fully functional, because it is only by the use of the five senses that the sixth sense exists. Communication between two levels. The sixth sense is more nor less than the ability accurately to record sensory awareness from one field of awareness to another. So I am very correct in stating that ESP in itself gets nowhere. It's like saying telephones, radio, television really happens, and then expecting that truth will be broadcast through this marvelous and misused expertise. But what the children need is to be shown that the two opposites, which will occur every time they make a decision, however trivial, are worthless unless they see the third direction, the free energy which comes forth when plus and minus are in rhythm, is recognized, or at least hoped for. No one can make the impossible come true unless someone can see enough of the pattern to assure them that the impossible is not only possible, but a profound simplicity. The impossible is so easy if only they would do what they can with what they've got. Chapter 15, entitled Evolution. I now see in a flash of insight which scares me with its brilliant sunlight, for I feel I might be blinded by such a blaze of truth, that the great bears, great woman, and great man are juniors, each reporting to a superior way out of sight, beyond our range of vision, but even more solid than the pencil in my hand, and the page on which I try to make marks, before this innate knowledge goes out of focus. Knowledge which becomes unavailable to me, Joanne, because I have not the equipment, brain, etc., to record it in 3D where I am functioning. Now the vision is starting to fade, and I clutch at it with my intelligence. Question. In my evolution, what can I contribute to the evolution of others? The evolutionary pattern has an absolute value, and it's not a matter of taste. In every rearrangement of specific energies, there is an ideal to which the energy patterns, which are many, does or does not conform. This applies to such apparently diverse forms of energy as the sound of a sonnet, or a Bach or Chopin or Brahms pattern of sound, or the color and form latent in a certain number of flowers, or even the taste of a specific collection of tastes in food. In any juxtaposition of energies, there is a fundamental ideal. The sound, the shape, the taste, the feel, which could be achieved if all the components were in their ideal harmony. The universal unconscious, as postulated by Jung, does in fact exist, and is a composite of all the individual contributors who have, as individuals, added to the sum of information of the evolutionary direction, which is open to any other evolving individual who has the wit and wisdom to tune into this admirable source of information. The highest honor is to be, and to have been, a contributor, which is the diametric opposite of exclusive knowledge. There is always infinite scope for evolving. Beyond the perfection of sound, there is always a melody as yet unheard, closer to the essence of music. Man is one of the few 3D forms which has lost, or rather which has deliberately failed to use its communal source of how to direct energies for a specific purpose. Each species has a communal source of shared benign expertise. And by benign I mean not only survival, but the means of evolving. Hence, why earlier cultures, Red Indians, etc., had Great Bear, who was the composite experience available to all bears, Great Wild Swan, etc. It's the composite of individual bears and birds which all bears and birds can draw upon when they are faced with apparently new environments, which allows them to use information, migration pattern, etc., which are so much wider than any individual member of the species could have acquired. But this whole process is both intensely personal, individualistic, as well as being communal. For the real community is the willful, free will contribution of individuals to further a direction to which they know they are traveling. One of the greatest of paradoxes, but basic truth. The communal source of information must remain lively, i.e. must be in constant contact with the individuals who are further evolved, so that the new contributions will be accepted only if they are of true value, and out of date or no longer opposite data will be discarded. Sometimes discrimination does not effectively operate. Out-of-date information is not scrubbed. Why? Don't know yet. C.F. Lemmings, who will work on an out-of-date instruction to migrate westwards to avoid Ice Age, which polished off the mammoths. Certain migrating birds who still land on lakes which dried up in Egypt area 6000 BC. C.F. also the tradition of circumcision, although the disease and the drought conditions no longer exist and were local about 1400 years BC. Cf. also food warnings, pig meat, shellfish, etc. Shellfish very opposite after the Santorini earthquake, which caused shellfish to become temporarily poisonous, owing to the release of certain minerals in the Mediterranean. Just as there is a source of communal information as to how best and most effectively to use energy, no matter what manifestation of energy this may be, which links with far memory, healing, and all other benign ESP faculties, there is, most unfortunately, an anti-evolution syndrome, which starts with a personal unconscious, which is not a natural state of man, nor of any other species in which energy condenses. The subconscious, unconscious mind occurs when the mind, as well as other attributes, become cut off from the source of its vitality. When this cut-off occurs, decay begins, just as a limb will decay when its blood supply is interrupted. So the material in the subconscious is always in a process of decay. It is experience which is no longer fulfilling its natural function. The smell of this rot is called neurosis. The pain of effective psychotherapy is analogous to the pain caused by the return of blood to a frost-bitten limb. Almost all modern, brackets 1970, ways of developing extrasensory perception are chide, because they are directed towards the gangrene of those cut-off limbs of the psyche, therefore endangering the area of still healthy flesh, instead of tuning in to the source of communal human wisdom. and man has a communal basic evolutionary pattern, just as swans and bears and lions and owls have their pattern. Man's search for God is in essence his longing to again become aware of the innate communal wisdom of fellow men, who were individual forerunners which being the title of an individual who saw beyond the horizon of his contemporaries, and who therefore could teach them how to employ their energies to the best advantage towards their common evolution. I stop this here and I continue this chapter about evolution ASAP.